YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back after the first NFL Sunday of the season. I'm recapping all of Sunday's action. I already did this for the Thursday night game. It's got its own separate video. You guys can go check that out. Monday games are tonight. Excited about those. We'll talk about those in the podcast. But after tonight, we're getting ready for week 2. We got all kinds of content for week 2, but I'm here to recap every single game. Got my takeaways. Don't have too many takeaways for the future based on week 1. That wouldn't be too smart to do that. Week 1 can be pretty random, but something I noticed is that wasn't random was the teams that dominated across the board for week 1. I think mainly the Chiefs and the Ravens. And then you look at teams like the Seahawks, you look at teams like the Packers and the Saints. Those teams don't seem that random to me. So that was something I noticed, but you can't take too many things away from week 1. But we'll break it down here. There's some games I saw way more of than others. I saw some replays here as well. So if I don't talk about one game a whole bunch, I apologize. We're trying to get through every single game here. But please subscribe, trying to reach that 60K goal. Follow that Twitter. You're missing out if you're not following that Twitter. I'm constantly talking throughout games. Thursday, Sunday, tonight as well, Monday night, giving you my initial thoughts there. A lot of things you're going to hear me say today here on this video, already said on Twitter. That's a must follow. My opinion, more content there than the channel, actually, just in text form. Instagram, podcast. Podcast is going to be great during the year. That'll be in the middle of the week, every week. Patreon has let's talk about that Patreon. Bonus content, all these things. Junior has his score predictions. I have mine in video form on YouTube. I have my locks of the week, taking some spread picks, over-unders, and more. I do college football score predictions for the top 25 games every week, and I'll start updating my playoff predictions in a few weeks. I think it's a little early, but then I will do that every single week on the Patreon. Discord access with a group chat. You guys can discuss with each other during games, and there's plenty more bonus content there. On the Patreon. Link in the description in the comments for that Twitter, for the Patreon, anything that you need. The Seahawks and the Falcons, 38-25. One of those games I really didn't see a whole bunch of compared to some other games, but it started off with the Chris Carson show. Even though Chris Carson wasn't super productive, he got involved in the receiving. You'd love to see that because he's kind of a hard, tough runner inside the tackles, but he's kind of bringing more to his game. They really couldn't get him going too much. It's nothing I'm worrying about at all. I thought for the Seahawks, I thought the offensive line, well, it was key to get 2 scores pretty early. They got 2 scores, to Chris Carson pretty early, and then got up right off the bat. That's ideal against the Falcons, against anybody really. But offensive line, I thought when they got up, the offensive line looked okay. You don't expect too much from the Seahawks offensive line. So really, really early, I thought it looked okay. And then it kind of went bad, and that resulted in the Seahawks offense kind of getting quiet. And then it kind of picked it up a little bit again, and then Russ was able to do his thing, and they were stuck at 14 for so long. Early in the game, it felt like they were going to get 38 points. And then all of a sudden they were stuck at 14, it felt like, for a bit. And then they kind of got going. So a lot is on that offensive line, which could be a scary thing, but it was good to see that they play better than, at times they are on paper. Russ was outstanding. I mean, nothing surprising there. Very little incompletions there. Jamal Adams is definitely somebody you got to highlight on the defense, everywhere as expected. Another thing, just like Russell Wilson, Jamal Adams is really not surprising, but he was everywhere. Fairly new to the Seahawks team, was able to kind of click and get all over the place. He just makes people better around him. I think it's a guy you game plan for, and it's a guy you can't really game plan for by. It definitely helps to watch film. And nobody, the Falcons didn't get a look at him in the Seahawks defense before this, but it's a guy that you can watch film and maybe learn a little bit, but it's all pre-snap, and those are the most dominant defensive players in football, and he was everywhere. So that kind of gets in Matt Ryan's head, it gets in the offensive line's head, actually. It gets in the whole team's head, and that makes everyone around him better. I was talking about on Twitter, I think if this team got some pass rush going, and they can bring some pressure from the inside, from the linebackers. The edge is kind of the question there. But if they really got that going somehow, that this defense can be better than great, actually. It could be that good. Adding Jamal Adams was huge. It's just tough to find some more pass rush out there. So very impressed with Seattle, though. My main takeaway from this game is the Atlanta Falcons, though, comes from there. And it's the same. It's only week 1, but it is the same exact Falcons team from last year. what I was talking about all last year and all offseason that I feel like nobody was talking about is it was pretty easy to blame the defense last year, and yeah, they need to be better, but I stressed it so much that the Falcons offense started slow in so many games last year, and then they got down, and then they got too far down, and then they had to come back, and there was really, they put up points, but then there was really no way to come back. The offense starting slow kind of hurt the defense, hurt themselves, and here it is. It pops up again. They just could not get anything going early. Matt Ryan can be electrifying, but it's just too late. Like it takes a little time, and it's not just Matt Ryan, but it just takes too long for the Falcons to get in their groove offensively. It is the same exact story as last year, 38-25. Doesn't feel that close, but it didn't even feel that close. If you watch parts of this game or the whole game, the Seahawks dominated this game. There was really never any concern there. So the Falcons, the key is, like I've been saying for the last year or so, you got to start better on offense. Credit to the Seahawks defense for that. It was big time that they were able to get those points on the board quick too because of that. All that factors into the offense of the Falcons starting slow. So, but yeah, excited to watch Jamal Adams. He was actually my defensive of the year pick. I thought that was a little bold, but excited to continue to watch him. Such a factor there. And hopefully they get a pass because that defense could actually be elite if they get a pass rush. But those are my takeaways from just week one here. Can't overreact to too much, but I mentioned in the beginning of the videos that random things every single year happen in week one, but something that wasn't so random is the teams that I thought there's a lot of teams that impressed, a lot of teams that dominated across the board, but not too many, about 5 teams that really stood out, and Seahawks were one of those teams, and it's not random, it's not surprising. So I guess you never know, maybe they can go downhill at some point, but I don't think so. So Seahawks get a good first win there. Next, the Jets and the Bills. Another score, a pretty good win, 27-17, 10-point win, but another one that it didn't feel this close at all. It felt like the game was over when it started. It was pure dominance from the Bills. The Jets looked extra sloppy. A lot of teams looked rusty, sloppy, and it applies to pretty much everyone, but the Jets looked pretty rough. Guys out of place on defense, players wide open for the Bills. Offense just could not get anything going. There was some accuracy issues with Sam Darnold. Again, could be a little rust, but that excuse could apply to anybody, really. Sam Darnold, a lot of people are just banking on him getting an insane amount better. I've been saying he can improve, but I don't know why people are expecting so much. Accuracy really isn't improved that much. You can improve it, but it really isn't improved by that much. So, yeah, and it doesn't help that he has Gase. You guys know I'm not a big Gase guy. So, I don't know what went wrong for the Jets. Just a lot of you can't move the ball. The Bills constantly on the field, offense constantly on the field. That means the Jets defense is constantly on the field, and they were kind of out of place. And it wasn't their day there. It felt like it was over early. The Bills, Josh Allen was kind of hot or cold. Statistically looked pretty good. I like his running ability, but at the same time, you like the running ability. Some really important key runs, but then he had the 2 fumbles. The first one looked like he kind of just pitched it to the other team. Obviously, he didn't do it on purpose, but you have your hot and your cold. He's so good at running; it could be a factor. Teams are kind of on their toes; they're thinking about it. And the fumbles kind of kept this game. It never really. The Jets weren't really a threat in this game ever, but this could have been the blowout of the day of the week. It really could have. Like the way the Jets were playing, the way the Bills were playing, take away the mistakes by the Bills. This game could have been really, really ugly. So those fumbles, and then Josh Allen had the big time throws, had escaped some sacks on the run, making some beautiful throws. That's the highs. The lows were he had some pretty wide open receivers that he was missing. It'd be one thing if they were missing just by a couple, maybe 2 yards maximum, but he was missing some pretty bad ones. It felt like they were in the red zone constantly. So again, adding to the point that they could have scored a ton more points. We'll blame it. They won at the end of the day. We'll blame it on some rust, I suppose. Both teams had some rust. A lot of teams had some rust. So they definitely can tune that a bit. But there was some things. There's not everything out there that you can be extremely excited about. I liked how they were using both backs, Singletary and Moss. They got Diggs a little quiet early. They got Diggs going. You could see early it was Allen was kind of looking for Brown still, so they're going to kind of get into their grooves. They're going to get better. It's definitely a team that will get better as the season goes on. Singletary and Moss, neither ran that well, but I do like the looks that they're giving. They're changing some things up. They're always kind of adding to the team. So, again, the way to sum this up, the Jets extremely sloppy, probably the sloppiest team, perhaps. There's quite a few of them, though, of the first week, and they quite possibly look like the worst team in football, only week one. And the Bills, Josh Allen, extremely hot and pretty cold at times. But they get out of there with a win. I think a dominant performance overall. So that's kind of my takeaways there. Curious. I'm not a big stats guy, but I am curious on the on Sam Darnold's stats. Something I didn't get to check out. So 21 for 35, 215, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, sacked 3 times. Yeah, I think he started to pick it up then. As the game went on. Really struggling. I think he 3 for 11 or 12 at one point, if I remember correctly. So he had some time to get warmed up. So there's some that's I guess the positive, maybe not too much positive. But the Bears and the Lions, what a comeback for the Bears. This was wild. This game was absolutely wild. This game felt over. I think to even Bears fans, it felt over. Trubisky was off target on many throws. It just felt like they were done there. They really couldn't get the pass rush that we expected. Even at the end of the game, they really couldn't get it, throughout the whole game, which was surprising because the Lions were a little beat up on the offensive line. The Bears have one of the better pass rushes, but they were missing Quinn. There's actually a lot of that. There's a lot of that this week now that I'm thinking about it. There's a lot of situations where you kind of question, is this good or is this bad? And this will pop up for a lot of games, I suppose. But for the Bears, I actually think the defense didn't play like the Bears defense. I thought, the Lions showed they can throw on them, and the AP was able to run. I don't think the Bears defense, honestly, they clutched up for sure towards the end, getting all the stops. But the Bears defense didn't play anywhere near as good as I thought they would, but they still won. So it's like, is that good? Or are we going to get the normal Bears defense, and then they're a much better team than this? Or are we going to get that same Bears defense, which is a little underwhelming every week, and that could be bad. So it's kind of both sides there. And the same thing, which offense are we going to get for the Bears? Because the fourth quarter offense, the Trubisky in the fourth quarter, Anthony Miller at the big time play. Anthony Miller is a stud. I think it's an underrated player right there. Which Bears are we going to get for both sides of the ball? It's kind of all over the place. Jalen Johnson, they were kind of targeting him a little bit when Stafford was pretty successful. He was very tight in coverage, though, so I wasn't really worried. Then he started to pick it up towards the end, too. A lot of guys picked it up. You see Fuller coming up with that big-time interception that was tipped around a bit. But a miraculous comeback there for the Bears. They really stepped up, and that's a momentum changer for sure. So, credit to them. Lions, I got to get on the Lions a bit, though. I think people will overuse the excuse that the Lions missed. They lost because they were missing a bunch of Kenny Golladay. Okudah was out. Big V was out, right tackle. Jamie Collins hurt them with what he did. That was stupid. It was very stupid. It wasn't as bad after I've seen it a couple times, but definitely, he's ejected. It makes sense. He hurt them. But all these guys kind of out is a legitimate reason that they weren't at full, or you could say they will be better with these guys. Understandable. That's really not why they lost this game, though. I thought the Lions outplayed the Bears. It happens in the NFL that teams outplay the other team and still lose, but it shouldn't happen, and it's rare. There's no doubt in my mind the Lions outplayed the Bears in this game, and they lost by 4 points to add on top of it. I blame Jamie Collins. I blame because the pass rush was non-existent in an offensive line that struggled last. I got to credit the Bears' offensive line. They played fantastic, I thought, compared to what we were expecting. So they clutched up. The Lions' pass rush was non-existent, and Jimmy Collins is part of that. So him knocking himself out of the game was bad. But coaching staff is mainly to blame the main reasons of getting conservative. Because I thought Stafford was fantastic. I thought he was throwing all over the Bears early. They didn't realize they can do that. They would throw to midfield, and I think I actually brought that up in one of the videos during the week that I expect the Lions to be able to push the ball to midfield no problem, and that's when they'll get shut down. Kind of what happened, but it really wasn't because the talent of the Lions. It was more of the coaching of the Lions. They would push the ball to midfield. And then maybe a little past there even, maybe a little up to the 30-yard line perhaps. And Stafford would look great, and they would go back to running. Yeah, AP ran okay. The other guys didn't run too well, but they insisted on the run. First down, second down, playing for a third down, and they made it tougher on themselves. Then, the middle part of the game, the spree for the Lions, I guess, was they kept passing. It was working very well. Stafford was playing very well, and then they got that lead 23-6, and they got conservative, run the ball. It's just so obvious, just very, very obvious. The Bears' defense is too good to get fooled or anything there, not let them run all over them when they know it's a run. The main thing of defense is a guessing game, and you're making it really easy for them. So then they put them in that situation to come back, and the Bears made some plays. Trubisky made some throws. Anthony Miller made that big catch. Allen Robinson made some plays. Again, the offensive line played well. So the Lions coaching staff, I thought, we'll blame Jamie Collins a little bit, I thought beat themselves there, so that was rough. You kind of took the ball out of Stafford's hands, and then you had no choice but to put it in Stafford's hands. The whole world knows he's throwing, so once again, you become predictable. It's easy for the Bears defense to play against that, but Stafford is still throwing the ball well. They're marching down the field with little time, and then the unfortunate, they have DeAndre Swift wide open for a touchdown, and he drops it. And this is strange on all levels here, because the first thing I thought of was DeAndre Swift. What was the main part of his game coming out of Georgia? And he's a strong runner, but in which he didn't run too strong in this game, but he can catch the ball. Sure-handed running back, which kind of fits today's NFL. He drops the ball here. So it's a very, extremely rare sequence, but if he kind of just dropped it straight up, it's like, all right, that was kind of a 1 in a million thing. He'll be fine. Something that's getting to me is the way he was turning upfield when he went to catch that ball. I don't know if he didn't know where he was on the field, which is hard to believe. He was in the end zone, so there's no reason to turn outfield. So that is a little concerning, honestly, because he had no idea where he was in the field. So unfortunate play there, and there was one more play after that, but that pretty much ended the game. I do want to point out another coaching mistake. I think early in the fourth quarter, I think it was the first touchdown on the Bears' unanswered spree, Jimmy Graham touchdown. The Lions burned a timeout way too early in the fourth. To kind of, I hate when defensive, that's on Patricia, and defensive moments, they call a timeout and they just leave somebody wide open right after that. What was discussed? What did you see? Obviously, it was all wrong. It was a major fail. They ended up needing that timeout. You don't really burn timeouts in the fourth. I felt like the Lions thought they were gonna kind of win that game. I mean, they should have, up 23-6, but they kind of blew that on all phases. Including myself, but a lot of people are talking about Patricia needs to be fired. I mean, Bevel too. And I think if this is a normal year, it's definitely strongly considered, and I would definitely be pounding the table. They need to be fired right now, but they're going to bring in another coach. I don't know who that is, or they're going to let an interim coach step up possibly. That's really the only option. But I don't think that really solves anything, especially what's going on. They're not going to do it. I don't know if it really solves anything, but bold prediction, not at all. I think Patricia's done after this year. That was a rough one. I thought the Lions were impressing me. They were impressing me to only blow it there. Hopefully they can get some guys healthy. Without Big V, they held Khalil Mack in check, no sacks, and they still lost though. So there's a lot of good and bad from both sides here. Another NFC North battle. Surprisingly, a shootout, a high-scoring game. The Packers 43, the Vikings 34. Surprised the Packers scored that many points there. I'm not surprised Rodgers played so well, but yeah, I wasn't not expecting that many. This was it's pretty straightforward on what happened in this game, but it was a very, very strange game. Very strange for the Vikings, the more I'm thinking about it. But straightforward in terms of the Packers, I thought just played better overall. They were the better team. Coaching was better. Credit to Matt LaFleur. Some people question him. Rodgers was dominant. Devontae Adams was dominant. Some dominant play there. And the time of possession game was dominated. So those are pretty straightforward. Those are no secret, no mystery. Those were the reasons the Packers dominated this game, won this game. Even though it was a bit of a shootout, the Packers were pretty comfortable. There was really no thought. Early third quarter, it felt like the Packers it was over. Even though the Vikings kept scoring, the Packers kept scoring too. But it felt like it was just over. It was out of reach. So credit to the Packers there. But why I say it was a strange game. Yeah, the Vikings had a record low time of possession, 18 minutes, a record low, but they scored 34 points still. I don't know what to make of that, really. Defense was constantly on the field. Usually when a defense is constantly on the field, it's because the offense is going 3 and out. maybe turning the ball over instantly, but they were scoring so fast that it was, you rarely see things like this, but they weren't scoring like that early in the game. That's why it was odd. I think they threw 5 passes by halftime, which is questionable. 5 passes first half, I'm trying to say, but they end up with 34 points. There's a lot of things that don't really make sense, with this game. There was a question. They were actually up with the ball after another solid red zone stop, and they called maybe the most confusing thing of the day. There was some questionable play calls across the whole NFL, but they called a play action pass from their own 2-yard line. The second Kirk Cousins got out of the play action, he was sacked. Jair Alexander, who had a pretty big game, sack, safety, interception, pretty big game for him. But yeah, that was a mind-blowing, just an idiotic call for the Vikings, and that felt like it changed a lot of momentum. It really shifted things. I'm confident the Packers still would have won the game, but you kind of hurt yourself there. But very questionable. It seems like the same old Vikings from last year, whether it's Stefanski, Kubiak. They pretty much have the same ideas. They take too long to take the shots, and they don't take enough of them. It took them so long to take the shot to Thielen. Only 5 passes in the first half. A lot of questionable things here. They were running pretty well, but they weren't able to keep doing that, unless they were in the red zone because they were coming back. They were down from so much. So they do rely on the run. They can run. I mean, Madison actually looked fantastic. Cook looked fine. There wasn't enough. But yeah, they could be a dominant run team, but they take themselves out of that. But they show they can pass the ball downfield too. They just wait too long to do those things. I think they just rely on being up. For them to have success against a good team like the Packers, they need to be up by a couple scores early. That's what it looked like there. So I question the play decisions, play choices. They definitely have the talent, and they didn't really use it early. It's unfortunate you don't see enough of the running backs, enough of Justin Jefferson. The cornerback play was very, very poor. The pass rush was very poor. Rodgers was making some crazy throws, and he was getting the ball out pretty quick most time as well. But even if he wasn't, I don't think the pass rush was really there. Missing Danielle Hunter hurt them. They did trade for Ngakoue. He played about 50% snaps, so that's a little unfortunate. He really couldn't get the pressure. Bakhtiari was on him. He played an excellent game. But the Packers had, they have some injuries on the offensive line, so credit to them stepping up for sure. Kenny Clark got hurt at one point during the game, but the Vikings couldn't really run the ball anymore, so that hurt them. The Packers, Rodgers and Devontae Adams are absolutely dominant. Rodgers, it felt like he was making the types of throws he was making. It felt like he was making those on, who knows, but it felt like he was making those on if Gilmore was out there, if Jamal Adams was out. Jamal Adams mostly in the box, but you get my point. So, insane game from Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams. Definitely up for maybe the players of the week offensively for sure if you're considering doing, for those. We'll talk about those in the podcast. But yeah, excellent game from them. Dominated the time of possession. Vikings young corners played a bit rough. The pass rush was a bit rough. I'm not going to panic. Definitely not going to panic yet. I think the corners, they're young. It's week 1. You need more pass rush. Had no Danielle Hunter, and Ngakoue played 50% snaps. So let's hope that was the case there, but you never know. Kendricks was a bright spot. Not really a surprise on the defense there. I was surprised Gladney, their first-round corner, didn't play. All these mix of corners going in there, and they were struggling. So I don't know what that's about. That's a little questionable. But dominant performance from Aaron Rodgers. A little disappointing in the Vikings' choices overall, coaching-wise there. So moving on to the next game. Patriots, Dolphins. Yeah, another one of those games I didn't catch a whole bunch of. This is interesting, though. Patriots win 21-11. It didn't really feel like they were in any danger ever. It felt like they had it. My main, player takeaway from this is on the losing side. Jerome Baker was lights out. This guy was everywhere. You see the range on him, the athletic ability. It feels like already just off of week 1, it feels like this guy's got a ton better and might have a bright future here. So excited about Jerome Baker, linebacker. Seen them trade Raekwon McMillan. They're pretty happy with their linebacker unit. They probably saw this from Jerome Baker. And he's had flashes in the past, too, because, we definitely seen that. So they were pretty confident with that group there. I think that, the defense played overall pretty solid. They made some big stops. Only 21 points in the Patriots. Did remember that N'Keal Harry had that fumble for a touchback, which is pretty unfortunate. So, that if that didn't happen, it probably would have looked a little better for the Patriots there. Maybe not as good for the Dolphins defense, but the Dolphins are still a young team, still an improving team here. Second-year coach. Thinking defensively, they'll get better here for sure. Offensively, same thing in spots. Fitzpatrick was definitely, usually we see Fitzmagic, has the magic early in season. Well, last year, I guess he got better as the season went on. He was in and out early last year, so maybe something that he'll get better as the season goes on, but not a good game for him. They were actually in the red zone late. Looked like he just gifted J.C. Jackson the ball there. Another takeaway is that they added 2 running backs that neither are really, that lock running back one, big-time running back, but 2 running back ones that can make an impact in Breida and Jordan Howard, yet Myles Gaskin seems like the running back. I mean, maybe he's not the starter, the full-go guy, but in this game, it felt like their feature back was Myles Gaskin, so that was interesting. But, yeah, they still got to get the offensive line going. Now, the Patriots really only strong in the secondary on defense on paper, but they're just a standout defense once again. I think that was we'll talk about the other games where I think this applies, but man, if you can build a complete secondary, you might be in business. It's hard to do. It's kind of rare. There's 2 other teams that this week, or 2 other teams in general that have it, and this week they played very strong. So, credit to them building that secondary. We've seen it last year. Credit to Bill Belichick. I like the way they're using Cam Newton. They're changing things up a little bit. A lot of read options there. Love to see it. Another one of those things where is this good or is this bad? It kind of applies to both teams here. Cam Newton barely even threw the ball. What was he at? 14 for 7, somewhere in that range. 14 for 7, 18, 15 for something in that range. Didn't throw for a lot of yards. So where's his passing game? That's kind of where you question, but they didn't really need to. They ran pretty well. So is that, they're going to have to throw more, the Patriots. So how's it going to be when they do that for the Dolphins? I mean, they didn't really, the Patriots didn't really have to do all that, and they still lost the game. So there's things kind of back and forth there. But maybe they weren't ready for that read option. You didn't really know how to game. But it's kind of a big reason I picked the Patriots, because how do you game plan for Cam Newton with McDaniels in this offense? Like, you really don't know what they're gonna do, throwing the read options at you, running to that corner of the end zone. It's just they got to get more. It was pretty much on Baker to kind of get out there. They got to get more guys out there. Corners were getting, blocked or put out of the plays in that game. It was well-designed plays. They were kind of taking them out of the play. But, again, if N'Keal Harry didn't fumble that touchback, they probably would have won this game even, not say easier. I think they were pretty comfortable, but it would have been a little better in that way. But see how long it takes for Tua to come in. I don't think it's gonna. I don't think they're gonna do it early on. I think I could be wrong. And they'll believe in Fitzpatrick a little bit there. Parker did get hurt at some point in this game. That hurt them a little bit. I don't have too many takeaways from this game other than what I said. So we'll see. We'll see how these teams do going forward. Patriots get the win 21-11, 10-point win. Eagles and the Washington football team here. Another game I'll say right off the bat that I think I kind of talked about the lines a little bit. I think people will overuse the excuse that the Eagles were missing a ton of key players, and that's why they lost this game. And they were missing a ton of key players, and they will be at much more full strength or better with those players. That is what should be said. But saying you only lost because you're missing these players, I think in a way could be accurate, but it's really not the main reason they lost. It's really not why they lost here. And you look at the offensive line, really technically only one guy was missing of Lane Johnson, which is pretty key. But Brooks, Dillard are missing, but those guys they're going to be missing all year. So I'm not really factoring that in here. Lane Johnson, looking at this year, Lane Johnson, only guy missing, again, pretty key there. So, and they did play maybe the best defensive line in football. They're going to be up there. So that was tough as well. This defensive line is something. But there was some pretty poor blocking there for the Eagles offensive line. But kind of going back, the offensive line is going to be somewhat similar to this most of the year. Jason Peters at left tackle actually might be better today than Dillard anyways. I know Dillard has the upside and will get better than him, but right now, if they're both healthy, Peters might be better. So really, it was just they were missing Lane Johnson really for this year. But what I want to get at is Carson Wentz, I was so impressed with Carson Wentz early. Some of these throws he was making, escaping sacks while getting hit on the run, really tough throws, threading the needle, making the big plays, and they're up 17-0, and then and he was getting pressured at that point. The pressure did not change. It was the same. I think it was a steady pace, steady amount of pressure, and then all of a sudden the pressure was getting him where he couldn't make those throws. Not only that, it's one thing if your pressure it's still getting to you, you can't make the throws, but now you're turning the ball over, putting the ball on the ground. I think he lost 1 of 2 fumbles, threw 2 interceptions, both bad throws. The first one was more of a really good play by Fabian Moreau. Second one, I don't know what Wentz was. Either one, I don't know what he's doing. So I don't know what happened here. It was. I'm putting a lot of blame on Carson Wentz here, actually. And I'm not really too worried going forward, but that pressure will still be there. I think kind of the question of last year when the Eagles kind of went in their stretch of losing games where it was disappointing. Wentz was pretty inconsistent, and then he turned it up again when they went their winning streak there. So consistency still is a major issue with Carson Wentz. You get the extreme highs, and you get the big lows there, which is unfortunate. It's just the pressure was there no matter what throughout the game. It was just, can he go out and make the plays? He could at one point. He showed us he can, and all of a sudden he couldn't. So I thought that was a major part of the game. What I actually think was a major difference was Washington's offense. Washington's offense, 3 and out, 3 and out, 6 and out, whatever it was, couldn't really do anything. That put the defense on the field a lot. They were still getting pressure on Wentz, but they were getting tired. The guys in the secondary were getting tired because they're constantly on the field. Wentz is able to make the plays. And then Washington's offense, nothing changed for their defense. They were playing at this. They were doing the same thing. But Washington's offense able to stay on the field a little longer, and that made things easier for the defense. They weren't worn out really, and they were able to get their breaks, and that matters big time. So that made their job easier on Wentz. I think that was a key part. So you got to credit, even though it's still got to be better. It's still young, though. In week 1 here, you got to credit Washington's offense for getting things going there. But, man, that front, Kerrigan still got it. Chase Young is a factor. You've seen him doubled at times, and he just throws guys off him like they're nothing. So what a 27 unanswered points. Again, the offense stepped up. I wish the Eagles could have got, I don't know, there just wasn't enough there. They really couldn't get enough guys involved, I suppose. But they'll get healthier, and they'll be a much better team. And maybe they won't play these dominant defensive lines every week. So they shouldn't every week. But they got to play Aaron Donald next week. It's not as much of a complete offensive line. But they got to get healthy. Wentz has got to be consistent. Those are the 2 things. Those are the 2 takeaways for the Eagles. Washington's key is the defense will be good. Don't make your defense be on the field. Don't wear your defense out. Offense got to move the ball. They don't need this offense to put up an insane amount of yards and points. It's got to move the ball a bit. It's crazy to think about, but that's what they got to do here. So insane comeback for the Washington football team. The Raiders and the Panthers kind of went as expected. For me, I predicted 34-28 for the Raiders, so in the ballpark there. It kind of went to it as expected. Takeaways from the Raiders, Derek Carr I thought was smooth. I thought that's the best way to explain it. I thought he was pretty darn accurate. There were some beautiful throws. The first one to Nelson Aguilar's first catch there, I think was the touchdown. Oh, that ball was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. But early on, they were getting Ruggs going. Ruggs looked like a beast. Like this guy was gonna have a huge day. Unfortunate injuries, so maybe slowed them down. They scored 34 points. Maybe slowed them down a little bit. Again, Derek Carr was accurate, smooth. I'm left kind of wanting more, though. I felt like there could have been more. Not that he played bad, not at all. I think he's got more. I think it was more there, but it got a little scary, though, so that's why I kind of, worry about that a little bit. Go out there and let him finish the game a bit. But I would have a major takeaway of Derek Carr looks great, things like that. I'm going to say not so fast because, he did look in this game. He looked good, but I'm not going to predict future or anything with that because, one, the Panthers probably have the worst secondary in football, one of the worst defenses in football. And 2, we've seen Derek Carr start really, really good in years before and kind of fall off the board there a little bit. I think he could have had a bigger day if Ruggs stayed healthy. But it's all good here. It's all good. We're taking away here. I just don't want anybody to kind of predict the future off that. Like Derek Carr is going to keep doing this against every team in week 8. I don't want any of that. But I love what I saw there. That's the takeaway. A takeaway that I like, Josh Jacobs, fantastic in the run game. As expected, got 3 touchdowns. Passing game, though, you'll love to see him more involved with that. I just think, Tyrell Williams hurt. Ruggs got to stay healthy because that would be a key part there for that offense. Look like he was going to be big time here. Defensively, Jonathan Abram is somebody that really stood out. They missed him last year. This is almost he can do it all as a safety, but maybe almost like a Jamal Adams impact, a poor man Jamal Adams impact. But you've seen him line up in different spots. And even though they did give up 30 points, the defense does seem better with Abram in there. And I'm excited to see him grow, as the year goes on there. So that was pretty big to have him back. But they get, Arnett struggled here and there. That one long touchdown, Robbie Anderson was, as a rookie mistake there. He looked like he was too worried about, Anderson's speed, kind of let's grab him a little bit, and that kind of forced himself to fall down, and he got the flag, and there was a touchdown. That was a pretty brutal play. The rookie corners, it's rare, even if they're first-round picks, they start off really good. It takes some time for the corners to be good, usually. So not super worried there. Not thrilled with the Raiders defense. For the Panthers, I thought Teddy played very well. Seeing him move around the pocket, avoid some sacks, stepping up, even able to go past the line of scrimmage, run. I love to see that because that's what he was so good at. Even right away when he came in, he was the things that stood out was that and his accuracy. And you kind of wonder the lack of reps and the injury. Mainly the injury for moving around like that. Will that go away? In first game here as a starter to start the year with the first, his first time with the Panthers as well, I thought it looked pretty good. So that was great to see. McCaffrey was, played McCaffrey ball for the most part. Thought there could have been a little more. Robbie Anderson was great. He's such a threat down the sideline. Teams know that, but he's still able to dominate the sideline. So that you love to see that as well. But then you kind of go, they're in the game, obviously. And then you have the chance there. They got the 4th and 1. It might have been a little less than 1. And this is where I'm not really too worried about this coaching staff because I like the offensive coaching staff, but this is where the classic example of overthinking things. You hand it to the fullback, he gets absolutely nothing, and you have McCaffrey. And I think the thinking was it's going to be too obvious that McCaffrey's getting the ball, but it's just overthinking. Who has the best chance? You got to ask yourself, who has the best chance, regardless of what the defense is thinking, to get that first down? And that's a simple answer there. So classic case of overthinking some things there, and that was unfortunate because the Panthers actually could have won that game. But impressive things from both offenses, so you love to see that going forward here. Panthers, I think, got a bright future. There will be some growing pains in the meantime, but some promising things there. Colts and the Jags, a little bit of an upset here. The Jags, I actually predicted Colts 27, Jags 20. I got the score right, just the wrong teams there. So Jags win 27-20. Weird game, strange game, because the Colts started off really good, and the Jags defense looked kind of sloppy early. And I was impressed with the Colts. Phillip Rivers was making some big boy throws, some classic Phillip Rivers throws, some great throws. So I was very much impressed with just an early stage, way too early stage, with the Colts offense, with Phillip Rivers. And what was surprising, Mack went down, but they're using Nyheim Hines quite a bit, and he was looking good really early. So Jonathan Taylor to start the game as RB3. So that, you question something. Is it just because it's week 1? Is it because, maybe he's still learning the playbook, trying to get things together still? Is it because they worry about the fumbling concern? I hope it's not that, because why the hell did you draft in the second round if it's, because I could see that. It's early in games. You don't want to turn the ball over early, especially when you're in the red zone. But if that's the case, it would make no sense on why they drafted him. So I don't think it's that. But that's something that I would be very scared of. But they were able to move the ball. I think a key game-changing turning point, and I'm going to credit the Jaguars. I'm not going to discredit them at all. But I think the Colts could have won this game on that 4th down. They handed to Nyheim Hines up in the inside there, up the middle pretty much, and they got stuffed. Nyheim Hines, pretty solid player, very athletic. It's mainly an outside guy. Questionable. Very questionable. Not a lot of trust in Jonathan Taylor at this point. It's fourth down. I'd give the ball to Jonathan Taylor. So that's a little concerning. It's only week one. A little concerning. That was a major turning point in this game because it looked like they could move the ball pretty darn easily on the Jaguars defense at this point. Jaguars offense just didn't have enough juice, enough explosive plays at this point. That was a major turning point in the game. Then things flipped. The Jaguars started to get some things going. And Phillip Rivers, that was, again, to this point, early stage, was lights out, was playing extremely well, and then everything just turned. It's the same thing as the Chargers last year. A lot of yards, some good play up until the crucial moments, and then interceptions, turnovers occur, and that's kind of what hurt the Colts ultimately, and Phillip Rivers there, and what turned the game around. I mean, the amount of yards he had, especially compared to Gardner Minshew. I mean, he threw for like 170 or so yards. He only completed one pass, but only threw how many times? And they only ran how many times? You look how many plays, passing and running plays, the Jaguars had total, and the amount of yards they had total was not much. Not that they were bad at all, but not much. And they scored 27 points still. That is concerning, to say the least, for the Colts. That's alarming right there. So that's something that should not happen. But Minshew, what I liked about him, really, really quick developing plays because of Minshew. That seems to be a struggling point to a lot of quarterbacks that don't really make it, is they don't let plays develop, or they can't, break them down quick. You can't break down the defense quick because you got to do it on the fly. Minshew's got that down. It's so quick. It's so rapid. There's not a bunch of explosive plays downfield. There's not a ton of yards, but it didn't really need to be in this game. They scored 27 points, but everything is so quick, so explosive. He just works really fast. So he's got the quarterback mind there. So that's what I love about Minshew. He had a fantastic game, for them. Looking at Chark, Laviska Shenault, they got some weapons out there, so that's fantastic for them. The offensive line played pretty well. I mean, the Colts just didn't have enough push up there. I think, again, sometimes those quick offenses like that, sometimes the small ball offense could be really annoying for a defense. But again, not that many attempts, not that many yards, yet they still get up 27 points. Concerning, and that kind of goes back to the interceptions. It's literally the same thing as the Chargers last year. It was a much, much better team than their record. We all know that, and it's because, they would be pretty good up until the turnovers start happening. It seems like it's the same thing for the Colts, only week one, so you can't say if that'll continue to happen. But a game where you almost expect to win against a team that actually, we expected to be one of the worst teams, could be better than that as it turns out, but for all those reasons, a little disappointing for the Colts there. I still think they need another top-tier receiver. Hilton was racking some things up early, but I think 2 drops, and there's some good plays in there by the defense, but 2 drops on that last drive, which one of them Rivers made an extraordinary throw on. So that was interesting. I just don't have they have a couple, again, they have guys that can play receiver. They got a number of guys. I don't think rotation and depth is really the problem. T.Y. Hilton doesn't really feel the same, which I always love me some T.Y. Hilton. Extremely underrated for most of his career. I think they need a legit most teams need multiple number ones. And they need a legit number one out there. So, yeah, and they had a chance to win it still, even with some disastrous moments. So you could take that away as a good thing if they clean that up. And that is, if you clean it up, it's a pretty good thing. But it's Rivers kind of doing things that really aren't new. And, so I don't really know. The Colts, it's a tough loss for them. It is only week one. Got to credit C.J. Henderson. The rookie balled out. First round grade, obviously, from everybody. Went a little earlier than expected. But break down C.J. Henderson. He has the traits, and the guys drafting love traits. The traits are there. You can't coach them. The physical, ability, the press ability kind of goes into that. The athletic ability combined. Some good length, rare. So that's why he went early. It's a guy that did give up more yards than some other players in college, some other top-tier corners, nothing alarming. So basically what I'm getting to, it's a guy, and you look at the cornerback position, even the first-round corners, the top-tier corners, you almost expect him to struggle a little early, and he still can. But all of that going into C.J. Henderson, it almost feels like a raw, insane upside player, and usually with those players, you can't expect great play early. You just can't. He played great in this game. It was fantastic. So you love to see that. It's only one game, but you love to see that. So you got to credit him there. Credit the Jaguars defense, that fourth down stop, turning things around. So big time win for them. Browns and Ravens. Right there with predicting what the Ravens were going to do. I think I predicted 37 points, 38. There was nothing. They didn't really run the ball with dominance. Mark Ingram, they kind of shut him down early because they didn't really need to play him a whole bunch after that point. But, dominant offense. Lamar Jackson was dominant. Mark Andrews was dominant. That one-handed catch, early was great. Marquise Brown was great. You love to see that. I mean, there's nothing really else to say about, the Ravens offense. Ronnie Stanley went down, got hurt. That's something to monitor, I suppose. But as expected here for the Ravens, I mean, they didn't even run the ball that great, with the running backs, and they still put up 38 points. So as expected. The Browns let me down. I thought they were going to score some points. In this one, I thought that their running game could really get going. But the problem here was, is that they just got down. So, Baker starting with an interception did not help. They got down, fumbles did not help at all. Just down so early. And that is the problem with the Stefanski offense. It's a problem with the Browns going forward here, is this team is not going to come from behind because they got to rely on the run game too much. Even though I believe in Baker's throwing ability, even though they have the playmakers, they're going to rely on the running game too much. You cannot get down like this. It's weird because I'm saying the same things as the Vikings against the Packers, but it's not weird because Stefanski came from the Vikings. It's the same exact thing over there. They got the play, they got the talent. They're going to rely on the running game too much here, and that was the problem. Kareem Hunt got more, and they couldn't rely on the running game because they were down so much. My point. Kareem Hunt got more carries than Nick Chubb. I'm not going to overreact from that. I did talk about in the offseason that Kareem Hunt might be more of a Stefanski-style running back. But I'm not going to worry about that too much because, again, they were down. They needed to be involved more in the passing game. Who is more of the receiving running back? Kareem Hunt. That's why he was in there more. Chubb did have the fumble. Hunt actually did fumble on the goal line, whether he was down or not or whatever. They got the ball back. Odell did not play a good game. He had a crucial drop early. Jarvis Landry started to get some things going, but 6 points is pathetic. No matter what defense you play, I expected more points. They're relying on being up early, and you can't do that with that defense because this defense, they got some stars on that defense, some studs, absolute studs. It's not going to be a good defense, though, mainly because of injuries or just who they lost in the offseason, I guess, at the linebacker position, apparently, or I suppose. I don't know. It could be a team of the future under this type of system, but it's week one. They did play maybe the best team in football. It's a little concerning there. Credit to the Ravens defense. Complete secondary. It definitely helps to have that. I talked about this last week or so. Patrick Queen might be a beast in the blitz game. He actually recorded a sack in this game. Don Martindale blitz wizardry there. So it's something to look out for this year. Something you can get excited about there. So nothing surprising from the Ravens. Browns let me down with the points. Defense wasn't surprising. Kind of went to expected. They got the Bengals Thursday Night Football. That's definitely not a free one there, so we'll see what happens. Chargers and Bengals. Speaking of the Bengals, kind of an odd game because 16-13 looks like a dominant defensive performance. I don't know if it really was a dominant defensive performance here. The Chargers defense, we know, even without Derwin James, can be lights out, can be good, and I expect it to be good. But it felt like the Bengals were able to move the ball when they wanted to almost. It sounds kind of funny, but it almost like they didn't. It sounds ridiculous, but I think that for teams a lot. It sounds like, it felt like they didn't actually do this. It felt like they didn't want. It almost applies to both teams here. It felt like they did not want to move the ball at times, and that's a bad look because they actually want to move the ball. That's kind of what it felt like. So I question play calling. On both sides here, which really isn't that surprising, especially in week one. I definitely question play calling. Surprised the lack of balls to Tyler Boyd for the Bengals. They kind of got him going there when they were able to move the ball at the end of the last drive. It's a guy that's open. I guess time to adjust for Joe Burrow. The offensive line was a mess, though, early, so that was kind of a problem. Offensive line was a big-time mess for the Bengals. A little different for Burrow. Constantly under pressure. it's kind of a disaster. So they're going to have, that's the next step to kind of grow that. Defensively, they're more impressive than expected, the Bengals, that is. Chargers don't have the most explosive offense, but you expect them to be able to move the ball a little better than that. So that kind of made it a little I'm more disappointed in the Chargers offense, honestly. Because, the Bengals, when it's all said and done at the end of the year, they could be better than the Chargers offense. But Bengals defense, missing some key guys, they should be able to move the ball better. Only one reception for Eckler is questionable. He ran pretty well. I guess they didn't run him enough. I like Josh Kelly. He looked very good for his first game. They like him a lot. He can actually run inside. You're not going to trust Eckler a whole bunch on the inside, but it looks like they're completely anti-Eckler at times. Kind of going back to last year. Eckler was their best weapon last year, even though Keenan Allen's probably their best player. Eckler was the more dominant guy when he got the ball, and they kind of went away from it. So kind of reminds me of that, and that was a big, not only reason, but a big reason I thought this offensive coaching staff mainly would be gone for the Chargers, and they're back. Only 1 week, so you can't overreact. Third down situations, they're still playing small ball. They're going quick slants, playing for field goals at times. You've seen a missed field goal when they specifically did that, played for a field goal. Questioning the play calling, play choices, the offensive decisions in this game for both teams, mainly the Chargers. What other again, there's good takeaways. Josh Kelly was good. Mike Williams had his bright moments. They got to get Keenan Allen going more. It's where it makes no sense. They want to play small ball. They play it even when they shouldn't, but they're not going Keenan Allen more. A guy that can play in the slot, play outside, could run, really good on the shallow routes after the catch, and he can do a lot more than that. But that's like Keenan Allen's dominant game there, and you're not really going there. The same with the Bengals with Tyler Boyd. So I don't know. I don't know. Questionable on both sides there. Defense has stepped up. Casey Hayward was everywhere, made some big-time plays for the Chargers. Kenneth Murray, rookie debut, felt like he was getting going too. Unfortunate injury to Tranquil. I liked his upside this year. That sucks. Defensive line look. Tillery had made some plays early. Pass rush was great, but that pass rush should be that great against the Bengals offensive line. Last drive was great for the Bengals. Last drive was really good for the Bengals with Joe Burrow threading the needle. Getting Boyd going for sure. Randy pulls something on the kick. Unfortunate. Just unfortunate. Was feeling overtime. During the week, I was saying this is the toughest game to pick. Ends up being a 3-point game. It should have went to overtime. You see, it ended up kind of staying true there. Any other takeaways? Jesse Bates I love me some Jesse Bates. Made some big-time plays back there. With the lack of corners, you think they would give up some more points there. So I think pretty good from the Bengals. They need, they could add more pass rush. It's a strange game. Because the score says defensive game, and I guess it really was, but these teams could have moved the ball more. They definitely could have moved the ball a lot more. So put it on some coaching staff in this one. So interesting one. Strange ending as well with that. What happened on that kick? Good last drive from Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow had some mistakes he would like back. That pitch directly to Melvin Ingram. Not sure what that was. I am not worried about Joe Burrow at all, though. I'm worried about the offensive line, though. Moving on. Buccaneers, Saints. Saints dominate this game 34-23. Another interesting game because, and I say that because the Buccaneers were they were sloppy, and I expected them to be. That's the reason I picked this. Well, not the only reason. The Saints are a really good team. They're at home. They're especially be more prepared early, but I almost expect a little bit of slop from the Buccaneers, which we got. So I'm not really concerned. Really, it's something they got to clean up. We got to see them clean it up. So you can't say they're going to be fine. I'm confident they're going to be fine. But you expected some slop, and then this is one of those things where is this good or is this bad? They had the slop, maybe too much of it, but all of a sudden they were like back in the game. They were actually back in the game. I was still confident the Saints were winning. They're back in the game. So is this good? Is this bad? You eliminate the slop. They actually could, even with the slop, they could have won the game. Again, Saints were winning this game. I was confident with them. So that could, and they had some more sloppy play. Their special teams was extremely sloppy. Credit to the Saints special teams because theirs was very good. But yeah, it's a team that I'm confident will eliminate that struggle. And again, for a lot of first-year guys in this team, first year with this team, not like rookies or anything, and they'll get better as the year goes on. They gave up 34 points, but I'm still impressed with the defense. Levante David and Devin White, these guys are beasts. Levante David was everywhere. There was a sequence during the game. 3 plays in a row were all made by Levante David. He had 2 in a row tackles for loss, and then he had the hurry to force an incompletion. I mean, that is a rare sequence. That's why I bring it up. That is a rare sequence from one single player. Guy's an absolute stud. Devin White right there with him. They could have had a little. They got good pressure. I guess they could have had a little more pass rush. Credit to the Saints offensive line. The tackles specifically, I thought played pretty well. It felt like a lot of, not a lot of penalties across the board on the slate of games, but it felt like there was quite a bit of penalties in this game, and I didn't really disagree with any of them. So maybe a little sloppy both teams with their penalties. So that, but yeah, kind of the takeaway from the Bucs, the defense has got a lot of potential. This defense is going to get better as the season goes on because it's a young, really good defense. Even the corners played pretty well. Sean Murphy, Bunting, Carlton Davis kind of held Michael Thomas in the check. Looked like a minor injury popped up there, so that could be the reason. But even though they gave up 34 points, I think it was due to the special teams and due to Brady's turnovers, which hopefully he cleans up. Credit the Saints defense. They played extremely. We'll get to the Saints. But yeah, that's why it's kind of weird because the amount of slop in this game, they were kind of in it at one point, even though I don't think they were going to come back and win. And then, yeah, giving up 34 points, the defense play, I thought it was good. So the 34 points really won't show that. So the Bucs are the ultimate upside team as the season goes on. I expect them to definitely get better. Trying to think if I'm missing anything here for the Bucs. Yeah, it felt like they were insisting on Ronald Jones. He had kind of the bright moments, and then they couldn't really run the ball too well. I thought Tristan Wirfs stood out. Thought he was pretty good for them. Run defense, not really a surprise because the run defense was already kind of set. It was already good. Run defense looked pretty good. They kind of shut down Kamara there. So to the Saints, that's kind of the weird thing about the Saints is that they scored 34 points in control of this game. They played a really good team, a pretty good defense. They scored 34 points at the same time. While Brees didn't play like the full Brees, Michael Thomas didn't play the full Michael Thomas. Alvin Kamara, kind of struggled to run the ball, even though he's involved in some touchdowns, and he could. I'm not worried about him at all because you still see the shiftiness, and they still scored 35. I keep saying that 34 number because they still did that. So that's kind of is it good? Is it bad? I think it's good. That I think they have more there for them. The corners of the Saints played extremely well. They did have some PI calls that they can clean that up, but not really surprising. Jenkins, since coming over from the Saints, from the Giants to the Saints, has been pretty darn impressive. And Marshawn Lattimore, I say it all the time, he plays, yes, elite, like an elite corner early in the year, and he always tricks me. So this could be, he's in that prime spot of his age. Like I say, the corners always struggle when they're young. It takes them to their actual veterans to figure it out. Could this be the year? He always gets me going because there's some really bright moments from Marshawn Lattimore there. I thought Marcus Williams was pretty solid. He had a bad PI at 1.2. Demario Davis was lights out as expected. Cam Jordan, Hendrickson were fantastic off the edge there. They didn't really miss Davenport too much there. You'd like to have him back. He could be better with them back. They weren't super explosive offensively, but they got 34 points on the board. Another dominating performance. It kind of highlights Sean Payton. I think Sean Payton very well could be, it's tough because there's some great ones, but very well could be the best coach in football. So that was an important win for the Saints. You could not lose this game. I talked about that during the week. Could not lose this game. Comfy win there. They did their job. And I talked about it in the beginning of this video. I talked about on Twitter. Random things happen in week one. You can't have too many takeaways or predictions for the future. But there was something that wasn't random at all. It was the teams that I thought were dominant or close to dominant. The Saints fell on that list, and that doesn't feel random. It's a really good team there. Excited to see the Bucs grow going forward, see if they can eliminate that slop. Cardinals and 49ers here. I did predict the Cardinals upset. I was feeling it. This game, another one of those games, I'm calling it kind of strange, and there's another one of those moments where, is this good or is this bad? I keep thinking that, and it's only week one, so you can't think about it too much. And that is the Cardinals. The offense was completely dead early. There was nothing. There was zero separation from the receivers, and that actually stayed true throughout the rest of the game outside of DeAndre Hopkins. We all know he really got going. But the offense was dead. And why I say, is this good? Is this bad? Because the bad part, the offense being capable of doing that's not necessarily, it was kind of bad. It's not necessarily good. But the good is they got going at the right time. You would prefer them when they start slow, when are they good? The way it happened, bad early, good late. Sometimes you prefer that unless you're down big time. But what I see is progression, improvements. But the offense only played good in the second one half, and they beat the defending NFC champions and the defending best defense in football in San Francisco. In a way, that's a really good thing there. But yeah, the offense was dead early. Offensive line wasn't too good, but nothing alarming, nothing surprising. I think Murray was panicking a little early in the game. So maybe the offensive line kind of getting his head. The Niners defense, the pressure was great. Credit to the secondary of the Niners, even throughout the entire game. They were locking down because, last year it felt like, good secondary, for sure, good secondary. But last year it felt like their front seven getting the pressure made their job easier, which was actually the case last year, but they were good at the same time. But there was times to the stretch of the game even where they weren't getting the same pressure and they were just locking down. Nobody really can get open besides DeAndre Hopkins. Maybe Murray was a little conservative, maybe not trying not to fit some tight window throws. He did though at times there at the end. And then I thought he was panicking a little in the first half, maybe through early third quarter, panicking a little early. But then they kind of cleaned it up there, and it was a good comeback. I think that blocked punt early in the game was actually key. Well, that was actually major for them. Defensively, Byron Murphy made that big play at the end. Patrick Peterson made a big play towards the end. I think it was a big-time underthrow from Garoppolo, though. Defense stepped up. You see Isaiah Simmons a little shaky early. Nothing to worry about there. Some guys stepping up. You even see Blackson getting involved. They just signed him a week. So defense stepped up. That's a big-time win. But, yeah, interesting takeaways there because the offense was kind of dead early, but they still beat the defending NFC champions, the best defensive team in football last year. So what do you make of that? But young, still learning offense, explosive offense. Same with the defense, kind of new, a lot of new faces. It's a team that will have some upside going forward, so that's good. That's a good thing there. In that touchdown run by Kyler Murray, or that run was ridiculous too. I can't forget to point that out because that was absolutely ridiculous. It's like almost like and nobody could have stopped anybody. I don't know if anybody could have stopped that. But the Niners were pretty explosive early. It felt like they were able to move the ball no problem. Especially with Mostert, especially with the running backs there. It felt like they were able to move the ball no problem. They would get in the red zone. And at first I was like, some of the play call and the play designs and the play calls were sensational, in the open field, back at their own end, as expected from Shanahan. But then, in the red zone, I was questioning some play calls, but then kind of going back and looking, no, I'm not. I'm Garoppolo. Garoppolo was a major concern in this game. I put a lot of blame on him. And I think that was kind of obvious to everybody, but there was times where he was too early and there was a lot of times where, except for that messy play early where he was spinning around, take that away. I thought his pocket movement was pretty good, avoiding sacks and getting outside the pocket. I think at times he did it a little too early, but he looked smooth in his footwork in a lot of those, but that was the good. The bad was pretty much everything else there. Off target, you see him off target on that last throw was off target, kind of tried to get Kittle killed there. Him coming out of the game kind of hurt them. They could have won if he stayed in here. So really off target, a lot of throws, but a main thing in the red zone is he was too early to go to the check down, I think. And it was odd. They were getting McKinnon going. He's a heck of a receiving back. But I think about 50% of their receptions were to the running backs almost as checkdowns. Not good there. So he was too easy to go to the checkdowns. I guess credit to the secondary of the Cardinals to locking things up, but it was pretty early. But then there was times where running backs were getting open on the outside. They weren't checkdowns this time. They were almost a lot of pretty solid wheel routes, and they were getting wide open, and he wasn't seeing them. He wasn't seeing them. So I think he is. Not only was he off target, anything out further than 10 yards, he was definitely off target. But he was even off target on the intermediate to short routes there. Not a good game from Garoppolo. Not a lot of questionable throws that they could have won the game on. Again, going back, the Cardinals' offense was non-existent early. It felt like the Niners were able to move the ball no problem. They were in the red zone a bunch without getting the points that they should have got. It felt like the Niners should have won the game based on what was going on. Based on what was going on, it felt like they should have taken advantage. I've been talking for so long, I'm losing it. It felt like they definitely should have been taking advantage of a lot of these things, and they couldn't do it. And I guess missing some receivers, missing Debo guys, not being able to get open downfield, legitimate excuse perhaps, but Garoppolo was off his game today, and that was my major takeaway there. So good game for the Cardinals, good comeback there. Pretty exciting game down the stretch for them. They stepped up on both sides of the ball when it mattered. So that's a big win in San Francisco Week 1. I'm not worried about the Niners really at all. I mean, Garoppolo's got to pick it up, but I'm not really worried at all. Cowboys and Rams, the last one we're going to talk about in this video, did not really go as planned either. The Cowboys offense I expected to be way more explosive, and there's one thing that pops up here as to what happened and why this happened is because of that no call on. I'm kidding. I kind of agree that call at the end. I probably wouldn't have called that, but that's not what that's not what made up this whole game. The one thing that was kind of different in what in my thinking of this game, how it would go or why the Cowboys would score a bunch of points, I did not expect that much pressure from the Rams defense. They were getting constant pressure. We knew Leo Collins was out, and we kind of wondered, everybody kind of wondered if that was going to be we knew it was going to be a tough loss. He's out for at least 3 weeks on the IR, and it was a major, major loss. They couldn't get any protection out there, but the interior pressure, Aaron Donald this is ridiculous what he's able to do, and it's really nothing new, but it was every single play, getting in there, beating double teams, beating Zach Martin, potentially elite guard, bullying people. He knocked Zeke on his ass. That was ridiculous. Made him look like he weighed maybe like he was my size. Ridiculous game from Aaron Donald. The stats really won't show it. The interior pressure, but they got some pressure on the outside as well. They were getting Leonard Floyd actually going, which was kind of surprising. He tends to do that early in the year. But yeah, and you have to credit another one of those teams that I feel like completed the secondaries. They got a complete secondary. Look at the Patriots, Ravens, Rams. Some other teams got some close to complete. Rams secondary was lights out. You're talking about a big reason why I thought the Cowboys would be very good this year, and I think they still will be. They'll figure it out. Year goes on, is because how explosive that passing game would be, and that opened things up for the running game. The running game could open things up for the passing game. Secondary locked down, maybe the best receiver trio in football. It was unfortunate that Jarwin went down, but they locked him up across the board. You even see Fuller, stepping out making plays. 6th-round rookie, he's even making plays out there. But across the board, really good play. Troy Hill's name didn't come up a whole bunch because I thought he was pretty tight. Almost felt like they were picking on Ramsey more. At times, they may have had a step on Ramsey at times, but he played a lights-out game, coming up and making plays. Fuller, that one play, I think that was that 4th down play. Fuller came up and made that huge play. That's a huge play there. But the pressure the Rams were be able to get, because they didn't have Terrell Lewis either. That's a pretty good that's a pretty good rookie. That's a pretty good draft pick there in the 2nd round. That guy is, if he's healthy, and that seems to be the concern again still, he's good. He can get pressure. So without him, it feels like only Aaron Donald on that team, and that's why. And I knew he was going to get pressure, but that was kind of the concern with the Rams. Are they going to be able to get pressure from everywhere? Are they going to rely on one guy too much? And I thought, even though they a little bit. Well, first, I thought they got more pressure than expected from those other guys. The blitz calls were fantastic. Very well coached defensive game here for the Rams. Wade Phillips out. Very impressive here what they did here. But Aaron Donald kind of still felt like, almost like, look at the NBA where just one guy can kind of take over, and it's not supposed to happen in the NFL. And it almost, in a way, the secondary played great. Other guys played great. Like I said, they got more impressive in the pressure department, the blitz department than expected. But Aaron Donald almost feels like that star NBA player, just take over by himself. And we see that from quarterbacks kind of, but they also have to throw the ball to somebody. They also have to have the right play call. They also have to be protected. So I don't really feel like that for quarterbacks. Aaron Donald felt like a superstar NBA player in that way, where he's able to take over and just bully a team, and that made Dak's job harder. We see how important pass rush is in general, but interior pass rush is game-changing because it's a quicker trip to the quarterback, and it disrupts the play right off the bat. You can argue it is the most important thing in football. Quarterback's the right choice there, but this disrupts the quarterback. This disrupts who's protecting the quarterback. The Rams, Aaron Donald, are showing it really just takes one player. Easier said than done when acquiring that player, finding that player. But that is the game-changing moment. Piece of this game. This offense couldn't play to its potential because of that. Dak didn't play bad at all. He couldn't really play great, which he's capable of because of that. I thought Zeke was fine. The receivers kind of played fine. They could have got more separation there, but credit to the secondary of the Rams. Offensive line, an offensive line you expect to be much, much better. Even without, they need La'el Collins. Even without him, you expect them to be much better in the way they played. I thought that was pretty crucial there. They could have tied the game at one point. Third down run, and then a fourth down pass to CeeDee Lamb. I'm kind of questioning, did CeeDee Lamb run that route short? Credit to the secondary to force him in. Or was that the play design? I kind of question that play design as well. I don't think anybody should be running short of the sticks. Sometimes you like to have one just in case he gets all the way over, leaks out. Okay, then maybe Dak went a little too early to that, but that kind of brings up they were starting to get some pressure in his face. They should have kicked the field goal. It said after the game that McCarthy's going to rely on, he's a big fan of analytics these days. I don't know about that one. I'm not a big fan of that. You won a Super Bowl, calling plays yourself. You might as well let a computer kind of be the coach there. So I kind of question that. The Browns are kind of going that route too. They're talking about their game plan is analytic plays, not their play calling. I kind of question that a little bit. I think you can have takeaways after the game. You kind of look at that department and see what went well. Even for players specifically, I understand that. But questionable play calling in week one. It didn't feel much different than Jason Garrett, but I'm not really worried. It's the first time McCarthy. I could actually be a little concerned if they stick only to the analytic department, but for first game for McCarthy with this team, with these players, I think they'll get it together. Offense will really get it together, but Jarwin going to miss the whole season. It looks like Van Der Esch going to miss 6 to 8 weeks. Hopefully more of the key. So that's tough blows. That could hurt them down the stretch, but hopefully La'el Collins is back after that 3 weeks. That is key for them, as we can see in this game. Weird game, though, because it felt like it was going to be a shootout early. We kind of thought that before the game as well. The Rams screen game was ridiculous. It looks like that's a weakness of the Cowboys, but they only ended up with 20 points. Cowboys were figuring out a little bit, but they also went away from it a little bit. It looked like Robert Woods was really getting going. It looked like the Rams actually could have done more. The Cowboys, if they call plays better, if they could have done more. The Rams felt like they could have just done more, honestly. I guess the Cowboys defense was stepping up, but the Rams offense could have done more there. Offensive line, still a concern, but they did look better. I thought Collinsworth pointed something out, pretty well, that they were actually getting upfield and blocking and driving. I thought he pointed that out, and that was good on him there to make that was a very good point. So they do look a lot better, but it's something I still worry about. Malcolm Brown looked pretty good. You wish they got Akers, Henderson going a little more, because I think those guys have a little more home run ability, a little more explosion to their game. But Brown looked pretty good. Very, very strong runner. And he actually a little underrated where he can bounce it out, make plays happen there. But then you kind of question that they're going with Brown, who they always had. They're devaluing the running back position. That could work out, but they keep drafting guys in the second round, so you could question. It's only week one, though. Rams defense was lights out. Impressive performance from them. Yeah, that's what I got there. This video went really long. So we'll wrap it up there. We'll do this video every single week. We'll recap Monday games in the podcast, recap Thursday games on Friday. Hopefully you can join us for all that. We got all kinds of weekly picks, power rankings updated every single week. We got you covered. Whether it's here, on the Twitter, on the Patreon. Link in the description for anything that you may need. That is going to do it for this one, though. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.